We are now officially recording, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome, everyone, to our November coffee chat, which was rescheduled from October. So, Andy, thank you for bearing with us. I'm Janine Vanderburg, co-founder of Changing the Narrative, a longtime anti-ageism advocate and champion for age inclusion. And that's really rooted in my over 3.5 decades of working towards social change in my prior consulting firm. These days, I'm focusing on my role as CEO of Encore Roadmap, where I do basically three things. I talk to employers and actually anybody who will listen about the very strong business case for older workers and intergenerational teams and facilitate workshops on how to actually make that work. I help Encore seekers create roadmaps for what's next, including teaching people how to use their strengths and skills and experience to launch consulting careers. And then finally, and most important to me, advocate for age-friendly public policies like stronger age discrimination laws. So today we have received many questions for Ande Lyons. When Andy came on, I was joking and saying, people must think that you are the queen of everything. And we got really diverse topics. Our rules for today, I'm going to ask each of you if you could put yourselves on mute and stay on mute, but I want you to be able to queue up questions in the chat. So do that along the way. And from time to time, I will pause and look at the chat and see how that's working. I do want to ask for respect in the chat. Please, let's not argue with people. Do share ideas and resources, and no name calling in the chat. We are all experienced adults, but a few months ago we had an incident. Are we ready? This is the interactive part. You say, yes, we're ready, or nod. Okay, terrific. With that, I want to introduce my friend and colleague, and what I'm going to try to do at the same time I'm introducing her is to spotlight her for everything. Okay, I did that. Can I spotlight myself is the question. Dun, dun. Oh, look at you. This is really interesting. I don't know how to spotlight myself. So I guess you are just going to be in the spotlight, my friend. Unless, wait a minute, I figured it out.
Okay. Oh, excellent.
I love it when that actually works. I'm going to introduce my friend and colleague, Ande Lyons. Ande is a 4-time business founder, a podcaster since 2012, and that was really when people weren't really doing podcasts. So you're an OG, founder of the New England Podcasters Group, and host of the pro-aging podcast, Don't Be Caged by Your Age, where she helps folks thrive as all of us get older. And I want to say this, I thought that Ande is really the perfect guest for November. Some of you may not know that it just happens to be Inspirational Role Model Month. And Ande, you inspire me every single day with your positive outlook, your commitment to eliminating ageism and doing it in such a fun and upbeat way. I love as well that your commitment to fostering real intergenerational connection and encouraging people to pursue Encore paths at any age. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if I keep looking off to the side, it's because I'm playing two roles. I am interviewing and I am also admitting people. So the joys of being a solopreneur and not having staff. Okay, Ande, I want to start with this. You are always so forthcoming about talking about your age. Why is that important to you?
I think the fastest way to dissolve ageism is just be like, yeah, I'm 69 and I'm feeling mighty fine. And first of all, the people who loved me the most were under the age of 30, and I'd smile and I'd say, I've got shoes that could be your grandmother. And, and they're like, oh no, you couldn't be past, age of 50, maybe 49. I thought, oh my God, wait till they find out I'm in my 60s. The other thing I saw all the time was gendered ageism. So, and well-intentioned advice would be given to the founders. Look, you need to pitch your value prop in your business as if you were telling your grandma. And I'd be like, oh, stop it.
No.
And I'd jump up, and for so many reasons. And so when I turned 66, I ordered the US 66, Route 66 sign. And I took a picture of myself. And I said, I have got to come out, and this is how I'm going to come out about my age. I was scared to death. You should see the photo. I'm looking out in the world, And it's like, you can see in my face, will you still love me and respect me now that you know I'm this old? I had real blocks around sharing my age. And it had nothing to do with how I looked. It was the indoctrinated ageism that we see everywhere, but specifically in the startup ecosystem, which is very youth centered. So I wrote a post called Don't Be Caged by Your Age, and I chose to talk about gendered ageism in the tech industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's when I came out about my age. And the post on LinkedIn went viral.
Yeah.
And people were sharing all sorts of amazing stories. Some were severely frustrated. Some were like, oh, I've done 3 or 4 amazing things. A lot of, and I'm just going to chuckle a little on the side, ladies. A couple of white guys were like, yeah, I'm having a hard time getting a job. And I'm like, oh, boo hoo. Welcome to our world of years and decades of blocks. I'm glad you're finally experiencing discrimination. With all due respect to the white guys that are tuning in, I'm married to an amazing guy. So, but we women know we have been up against every obstacle. Women of color especially know how hard it has been. And here, after decades of sexism, we're now dealing with ageism. And I had to check my own bias, Janine. Because I had a guy who showed up in the comments and said, hey, I'm 91 and I just did this and I'm starting this. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing on LinkedIn at 91? And I thought, well, there you go. Don't be caged by your age, Andy. I've got so many indoctrinated beliefs inside me. Having been a podcaster for forever, I came to this transition in my life where I thought, okay, working with founders, it's lovely, it's delicious, but the reciprocity isn't there. Founders are very focused. Can you help me get money? Can you help it make introductions? If not, get out of the way. So I thought, okay, this is nice, but I'm done. What do I want to do next? And it was podcasting. And Don't Be Caged by Your Age was a wonderful segue to help me understand what are the challenges that we're experiencing. The first thing I really understood in the process as I began interviewing folks was I need to be really comfortable in being the oldest person in the room.
Yeah.
Confidence. And the more I say my age out loud and proud, the more it opens up the door and gives other people permission to say, oh, yeah, well, I got you beat. I'm 74 or 83. You know, it just makes it a fun game.
Well, and Andy, I know 2 years ago, so when I turned 70, people were doing, kind of the thing they do, like, you look great for your age, or 70 is the new 40. And I ended up writing a LinkedIn post saying, you know what? 70 is not the new 40. I've been 40. That was good. I've been 50. That was good. I've been 60. I was a little tenuous then about the ageism thing. And now I'm 70 and, life is good. So, but but because I'm self-employed, I don't need to worry about someone who's looking at my age and saying, oh, we're not going to hire them. Are there circumstances where you think people should not be shouting out their age, especially on a platform like LinkedIn?
I'm afraid I don't, Janine. I think we all just have to be bold. The only way that we can dissolve ageism and shatter this ceiling that holds us back and this block and limitation is to put a spotlight on it, to say it like, yeah, I'm 69, so what, or I'm 82 or whatever age. It's just look, I've got these decades of lived experience. It shifts, and as you like to always say, it flips the narrative, right?
Right.
It really helps people go, oh, okay. When you talk to anybody who's 35 or under, they really don't care. I mean, they just want to know what's going on in your world. They're delighted that, learning how to have conversations with older folks is really important to them. And so we just need to keep getting in those rooms and talking about our age. Now, look, the reality is you will be discriminated, okay, by your age. We have not made
You
it.
face that yourself, you believe.
Me? Have I faced it with my age? In achieving anything? No, not yet.
No, not yet.
No.
Okay, well, not yet. You have something to aspire to.
And especially, when I was surrounded in the startup ecosystem with the young and the vibrant and wicked smart, as we say here in Boston, I was very welcomed. Of course, that has a lot to do also with my energy, but it's still this willingness to hear and be part of the conversation and learning. And, I know from watching folks how hard it is. I have a deep appreciation. I mean, I've been unemployable since 1992. So, like you, working for my own businesses, but I know from hearing the conversations. So, there's different techniques, and we'll be talking about that for how do you get employed. But
Right.
but I think if we keep being afraid to say our age, we're just we have to flip the script and just find ways to be on the frontier. Just kind of remember when women couldn't wear pants to work?
I do remember that. I do remember.
Okay, we
I
had to break
remember
that.
when we had to wear pantyhose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're used to breaking the mold. We're used
Right.
to pushing down barriers.
One of the things I love about your podcast, because talk about breaking barriers, you deliberately feature people over age 60 or 65 or over who are starting new ventures or exploring new passions.
Right.
What do you think it takes for someone to feel confident doing that? Because I will tell you very often what I hear, I'm always encouraging people to start their own businesses, start a consulting practice, do your own thing, right? As an antidote to workplace age discrimination. And I will hear people say, am I too old to do that? So what do you think it takes
Oh
for
my
someone to
gosh.
feel confident pursuing their dreams?
I think they need to do an inventory, first of all, right? Of what they've done and where they've been. Because this is an indoctrinated message that is so strong. And trust me, I often say that to myself, or I look at my husband, is he too old to be doing that? And getting scared, is he too feeble? But when you do an inventory of where you've been and what you've done, and look back with your 2020 vision over your life, of course you can find the confidence, right?
Right.
You can take the baby steps. And of course, we're talking about starting a business. That's a whole different ball of wax because now, unlike being an employee, you're having to do what I call the owner mindset shift.
Right.
So you need to bring in to your consciousness, how am I creating value? What am I creating and building for the person who has a problem that I'm going to be solving and they're willing to pay for? It's really about trusting what you've already built inside yourself, decade after decade. You've survived, you've adapted, you've learned. And if you look at that as your superpower,
Right.
nothing can stop you.
So it sounds like step one, doing this kind of inventory. I have something that I offer in my consulting class called your edge inventory, riffing on the idea that your experience is your edge. And it's a combination of your experience, your connections, the kind of things, the results that you've delivered for people over a lifetime.
That's right. And that those fears you have about being too old are so valid. I mean, when we look back, when Social Security came out for people 65 plus, really their time was basically up. I mean, they needed a few more years just to chill, relax, enjoy life, spend time with the grandkids. Now you're looking ahead 20, 25 years. If you've made it to 65, it's highly likely you're going to make it to 90. And all you have to do is look back the other way and what you did the last 25 years. It's mind blowing. Really honoring who you are. And can I tell a quick story? This is all consciousness awareness raising, right? So I was at a dinner with a group of people, and a wonderful, well-intentioned 40-year-old man was going around the table, tell me about you, tell me about you. So he turns to my friend Julie and he says, so young lady, tell me about yourself. And I go, oh my gosh, Jim, with all due respect, can we use this as a great teaching moment? Julie is about to turn 55.
Yeah.
She's not a young lady. And I know you meant that as a compliment, but it isn't. You can call her queen, you can call her goddess, your highness, Julie, but she has decades of extraordinary experience. She's not 20, she's not 18, she's not 22.
But what did Jim do?
He was like, oh, but I wasn't really saying it for Jim, is that we have to speak up when people say you look good for your age. That's not a compliment. That's patronizing. And who are you comparing me with? I mean, maybe I got some good DNA and I didn't smoke. It has nothing to do with my beauty. It comes out of my eyes, out of my smile, out of my vibes. All the things like you had said earlier. So we have to take these moments to speak out. It might feel a little uncomfortable and you have to do it with a little bit of a laugh, but boy, it wasn't for him. It was actually for the women at the table so that they could step more fully into, yeah, I've been around double nickels. Dang it.
I can do this. I can do the hard things. So let me ask you this. This was a question from an audience member. What is your favorite response to people when you hear them say things like, I'm old school and I don't want to learn new technology? Or, and this infuriates me when I hear someone our age saying something like this, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I say, you're not a dog. All right. Second, and I just wrote a post that actually went viral on Reddit about this, which is boomers are tech legends, not tech challenged. I get that the question is, I don't want to learn something new, but let's talk about one of the most persistent and annoying myths about our generation, that we struggle with technology. I like to come back with boomers were building tech companies in the 70s, inventing and producing the foundation that we use today in tech. And as individuals, we've adapted to and then taught more tech than any other generation in history. We went from analog to digital, from manual typewriters, everyone, to PCs, rotary phones, which we
Rotary
took in the
phones to
smartphones, from carbon copy, literally, if you wanted 3 copies, you had to put that carbon paper in the middle, to high-speed printers, from dial-up to fiber optic, vinyl to streaming, punch cards. I mean, if you dropped your punch cards, you had to start over from scratch. What a nightmare. And we didn't just survive, we thrived. And it was a capturing historical data of what people went through. One of my favorites was this woman. She was at Stanford in her chemistry class, and the professor said, okay, and you folks with the handheld calculators, you have to sit in the back row. And she looked at her friend and said, what's a handheld calculator? I mean, think about
Right.
what we have learned over the years. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think it's really important for so many of us are dealing with that perception that somehow we are tech challenged. And my response is always something similar to yours, not as elegant though, Andy. And so I think it would be really helpful for everybody here to have those talking points.
You can tell I'm really passionate about
I
that
can
one.
tell
'Cause
you're
honestly, I mean,
this is why you're
cassette tapes and those answering machines used to drive me nuts, let alone everything else we've learned.
all
So
the things. So, Andy, the other thing that was interesting is we received a number of questions about starting a business, and consulting is an Encore. And I think it may have been because people knew from the description you're a 4 times entrepreneur, because I'm currently offering a course on taking your experience and launching into consulting. So I have a bunch of questions about that.
I think it's one of the best things you can do, because getting hired on a W-2 is going to be much harder than getting picked up as a 1099.
So one question was, fine and good to tell people to start a business, but what do you do for somebody who wants to start something who doesn't have financial resources or backing? And this person said she has a lot of friends that would be great at starting something new, but feel like they don't have the resources. Do you have any advice or tips of how to
Sure.
get in?
There's a video for that.
Yeah.
There's always something on YouTube for that, right? There are resources out there, and I'm not talking just SCORE. There are so many local, I mean, it is the it thing to do to have entrepreneurship workshops for all the ages. And again, be brave and bold, be okay with being the oldest person in the room. This is a great revenue model for so many folks our age, because folks want to hire us for the institutional knowledge that we have built over decades, right? And so I know you're living on a skinny budget, a little bit of Social Security, a little bit of savings, and the next thing you're going to be bagging down at the local grocery store. You don't want that. So a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to just do a shout out to Jerry Sedler, her book, Don't Retire, Rewire. It's all questions in here, exercises to help you nail down what it is you could do, right?
Yeah.
But secondly, the resources are out there. And then what can be very exciting is not only do you learn how to be an owner, and there's a whole thing you have to start off with when you launch any kind of business, even something without the low overhead, like a consulting practice. That's very easy to do. You don't need to buy, hire, do all the things.
You can start consulting for under $1,000.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very easily. And then I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right. It will come back.
And the thing is that it's understanding that you have a service, and especially nowadays, where seasoned people on a team are so needed. And I know our good friend Jeanette Liardi can really speak to this, which is, and let's just hold up her book and do a shout out, Aging Sideways for Jeanette. But our brains can do it.
Right.
And our creativity can do it, but you need to be taken through the process. Who do you want to serve? What's the problem that you're solving that people want to pay for? That's your value proposition.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Someone asked, when deciding between several possible niches, how do you determine which one will yield what they call the livable 20 to 40 hour a week income, as opposed to just following our passion? So do you have thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that because having been a startup founder, people are like, oh, do your passion. Look, I have a passion for a lot of things. It doesn't mean I want to do it day in and day out and charge for it.
Right.
That's why the Don't Retire, Rewire book, double chef's kiss for helping you go through the process to find out what is in my lived experiences that I would want to sell to a company, have them hire me for to help them. But so I just want to put that out there. And then the book also is just, the word pragmatic was in the question, so pragmatic. And then again, it's trying to find that nice fit. And boy, that's what's so great about consulting. Right. You can put together, you're hired for the deliverable. So you could work 3 hours and solve that problem and get paid a lot of money. They don't know that it didn't take you 20 hours or anything. You can be napping, you can be walking, you can be lunching. It, isn't an hourly wage type of thing.
And that's one of my key bits of advice. Never charge. Well, one, never free for anyone who's thinking about free, never hourly, because what you're doing, you really are charging the client for the value that you're bringing, results that you're delivering, not for your time.
Here's the beauty about consulting. You get hired to do something, you know that you're capable of figuring it out. We call it just-in-time learning. You get, oh yeah, I got this. And then on their dime, you figure it out. And now you have another thing in your portfolio that you can sell to another company. But right now, what corporations are realizing very starkly is that their teams are not qualified to manage the chaos we're in right now. We can do that. 65, 75, 85. My husband just got picked up by a young company, and they readily say, you're the highest paid guy here. And it's because of your institutional knowledge that we don't have the time to learn. You already know.
Right.
And so that's so important for people to understand. But I keep going back to, how do you identify the most relevant client audience for what they are offering? We go back to, first of all, understanding what's the problem you're solving, which is, how am I going to help this corporation out given my skills and skills that I might want to also acquire and get better at? And do they want that problem solved? Are they willing to pay to have that problem solved? Mm-hmm. That is called your value proposition. And then you get focused on the psychographics, which are what's motivating the people who want to bring you on board, what are their beliefs, et cetera. And then you start compiling your services, and you work with Janine here to help you identify. But there are other great opportunities out there that I think people miss for working. That's with a deep appreciation for the barriers to entry because of age and the indoctrinated beliefs and bias and prejudices of these organizations. But I'm going to say, start networking, showing up as the oldest person in the room. It's going to do wonders for you and your ability to get clients, and find other ways that you can add value to teams. Startups are always looking for seasoned folks. I just saw Zoran Mamdani with his new, deputy mayors. These women have decades of incredible experience behind them. That's the kind of example that you need to remember, that seasoned employees and team members are so important right now.
And Andy, I think that this is so important to underscore. I mean, so I launched my Launching into Consulting course 2 weeks ago. And one of the first questions I got was, okay, we've experienced workplace age discrimination experiences held against us. And I'm like, that totally flips when you're consulting.
Yeah.
Nobody wants someone who doesn't know anything, who's right out of school, to be solving their trickiest problems that they need solved. This is really where experience is your edge. So thank you for reinforcing that. We got a question, and I think this is sort of relevant to all of us now. What AI tools and processes are you using to support your business? So people, when I say that we got so many questions and they were everywhere, how are you using AI?
Well, I know there are so many great tools out there, especially for content makers. And scary tools for content makers as well. But I am a huge fan, especially as a solopreneur, of leveraging AI for me. And of course, I use ChatGPT, and for me, it has always been training it to understand me and how I'm serving the world. So that's my number one. I have some other AI tools that I use for podcasting, but on a daily basis to get things out, because a lot of times we have what we want in our head, but we don't, we want to help, we want some brainstorming.
Yep.
And so that's what chat is for, provided you give that, or Claude or whomever you're using, give it the right prompts. It is really stupid easy at the end of the day. And it adds a ton of value to getting product out, getting all sorts of things out.
The other thing that I've noticed as well is that it can speed up a lot of routine things. You can literally now set up GBTs or personas, like really routine tasks, so that you don't have to do it. And
Absolutely.
that's one of my favorite features.
But the startup founder in me, because I've seen so many incredible innovations come out of really hard challenges and problems that need solving.
Yeah.
We're going to see so many more micro communities established, because you cannot replace the human on so many levels. I mean, there are, of course, people are going to lose jobs due to robotics and AI. But at the end of the day, even my son, who's a gamer and a game designer, talks about how AI, it's going to be years before it can do certain things, even in that area.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I've written a bit about this now and continue to talk about it, our experience can actually allow us, if we're willing to learn how the various AI tools work, to be the power users. So we understand the industry context, right? We understand the institutional context. So it helps us shape better prompts. And then we all know, any of us who have played with AI models know that sometimes they make stuff up. But we also know, like, I've thrown things at ChatGPT sometimes as a test. I will say, give me the 10 best assessments of ageism. And they'll come up with some weird stuff. No, try again, look at this one. So I think, but somebody who didn't have the experience might queue up that same question and just accept. So I think this is another area where our experience can be our edge. I love that. Artist. We're going to want to hear more. Put more in the chat. Okay, now do you have recommendations on LinkedIn profiles about rewriting them, about whether you personal and business? I know you have a personal and a business.
Right.
Right. Don't be caged by your age. Do you have recommendations on that?
Well, first of all, LinkedIn is how you're found. Period. End of story. It's a very meaty site. It's going to usually be the first thing that pops up when someone Googles you, because just go into a incognito tab and Google yourself. It's usually LinkedIn and then maybe your website, but probably some of the social media sites before it gets to your website. Secondly, it's so important on LinkedIn, and we just had Vinny Potestivo come into our pod garden to talk to us about this. I can make sure I can send this off to people on how to best leverage your profile and using what I call comment marketing on LinkedIn.
Tell us more about what comment marketing is.
What LinkedIn likes to see is not so much your posts. They really don't. They care about the comments on the posts. And that's where your profile will meet the algorithm's needs. So if you see Janine has posted something, or Jeanette or other folks here comment on a comment, really repost, do all of those things. It helps not only that person and amplify their work, but it also helps make you more visible in the algorithms. There's a woman that you can follow on LinkedIn, Judy, Judi Fox, Fox. She is brilliant around how to leverage LinkedIn. And it's so important for all of us to understand how to use this platform. And it changes all the time. Oh my gosh.
They have
So
had a lot of algorithm changes in the last year.
does that stop me from being on all the platforms?
And that's why you do such a rocking job with Don't Be Caged by Your Age.
Correct, Paul. Judy Fox. That's the gal to follow. And then I'll just type in Vinny's name too, because he is all about credibility and visibility.
And Andy, if you're okay with it, also, Paul is asking, how can people contact you? So if you want to contact your website or something in the chat, that would be lovely. I'm going to
Absolutely.
keep going through our many questions. Do you have recommendations on how to build a mastermind group with the purpose of leveraging and upgrading knowledge and experience?
I have zero knowledge in that area. Masterminds, I think they're helpful. I'm not a user of masterminds, it's just a quirk of my nature.
Yeah.
But so I'm sorry, I am unable to add value there.
Oh, no. Well, so I'll just share a couple of things. I've been a part of a couple of mastermind groups. When I ran my consulting firm, we had a large team. So I always had lots of people I could talk to and bounce ideas off. When I stepped away from my consulting firm and started changing the narrative, all of a sudden it was me talking to myself or my dog. So I got to find some smart women around. So joined a couple of mastermind groups, and it basically, it's forming a group of people who have somewhat like interest. And I would say, to me, what's really important is people who have ambition, because you don't want it to just be a chat group. I'm not interested in a support group or people just cheering me on. I want people who are going to challenge you. Okay, so what are you going to do next, and that kind of thing. But knowing what you want in a mastermind group, I think, is really critical. And I think forming your own is a really good idea. So we're going to kind of conclude this Encore career thing before we go into questions from people who are interested in podcasting. Your best advice for anyone who is looking to segue into an Encore career. Your best advice, not all of it, just your best.
Start a podcast.
Okay, that's a great segue into our next session. But why should people start a podcast?
Well, first of all, low overhead, seriously. The mic is $60, and then with all the tools, you might be putting out $50 a month. But there's so many benefits, because if you're entering a new industry, I didn't know anything from pro aging. It took me 9 months only to become considered a thought leader because of the podcast. You get guests, people say yes, and there's also Podmatch, but you want to enter a new industry, have a new career, interview people who are doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then you're building your network, you're learning all these great insights from them. Taking notes. One of my favorite phrases is Seth Godin. Sure, it's been done before, but not by you and not for us.
Yeah.
Just look at the bread aisle. Plenty of room for different types of bread. Everybody's satisfying a different need, okay? So to that point, you're going to pick everybody's brain. You're going to have these great conversations, great connections. You're building your industry knowledge now with these folks, and you're getting more confidence in what you're going to be talking about and how you want to go into that career. And so I'm just saying, for a low overhead, and who cares about the downloads? You're having the conversation.
Okay. So people have always encouraged me to have a podcast. And oh my God, it sounds like so much. I love the interviewing people part. That's why we're doing the coffee chat. The whole idea of editing and uploading and all of that. Do you have someone manage that for you, Andy? Makes so much work.
Oh my gosh. From 2012 to where we are today, it's easy breezy. So I now use Riverside.
Okay.
Riverside, I have my recording. Then, just like a Word document, that's how I edit the audio. It's amazing. So however long my interview is, 30, 35 minutes. So there's 35 minutes there. And then it has a wonderful AI tool that changes makes sure the audio sounds like NPR, for crying out loud. It's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I can add a background. I can zhuzh it up. And then I go and I upload that to YouTube, to Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout shoots it out everywhere. Again, I'm a systems and procedures person, so I have it into a slipstream, how I onboard a guest, how I structure the story arc of the podcast, all of that. Boy, there are so many outstanding people who'd be happy to do it for you.
There you go. Okay, good to know. So somebody asked, what tactics do you use to build a roster for podcasts? And I'm interpreting that to like find guests. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, there's a wonderful resource out there, platform called Podmatch. And for $6 a month, if you have a podcast, it's like a dating site for hosts and guests. Swipe right. They have it set up. You set up your whole profile, your whole show, etc., and they'll match you with guests who are seeking to be on podcasts that are under the same topic. You put in your keywords. For someone who just wants to get picked up as a guest, it costs a little more. It's $29 a month, but it is outstanding and a stunning, stellar tool in our podcasting industry. I've been doing this for 13 years. I like to check out what somebody's doing. I just have a whole different way of filtering guests and finding guests for me, but boy, they can make it easy. And then Yamini, I think Riverside might be having that feature coming along where you can actually host. You don't even have to do Buzzsprout. And by the way, Riverside is $25 a month. They do all of this. They'll come up with show notes for you, but you can ask chat for show notes. And you can ask it for your LinkedIn and Instagram posts or whatever you need. The overhead is, and the tools make it so much easier. Or you can hire Yamini. She does a great job at editing people's podcasts.
All right. Duly noted for people who are interested in podcast. Another person asked, do you have a formula that you follow for your podcast?
Yes.
For example, listeners must learn something. What's your formula?
My formula is always creating.
I mean, you interviewed me. It was really fun. I had a great time. You're fun to be with. But yeah,
there's always an arc. There's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. We're going on a journey. We're starting off with this part of the conversation, then we're going to move into another, and then we're going to wrap up with this. There's always something for someone to glean from this person I'm talking to. So there's different beneficiaries of the podcasting experience. I have to be happy, right? Because you got to get up and do this every day. Then my guest, I want them to have a really easy breezy experience.
Yeah.
And then I want my listeners to be edutained. I want them to feel like, oh, wow, that was fascinating. Maybe they learned something. I know that one of my podcasting pals, Jenny Bellinger, with her Websites Made Simple podcast, it's definitely a learning. Or Emily Aborn with her Small Business Casual podcast, always a learning. There's something that's going to help you with your business. They are shorter. They don't have guests. They are specifically to educate you and help you with whatever it is you're working on. Mine is a combination of human interest. It's under personal journal and society and culture on the Apple Podcasts and other feeds. And so it's a different experience. And I prefer the interview process. I prefer the conversation.
Paul is asking, what are the biggest mistakes you made in podcasts that you wish you had known then?
Well, again, Paul, I'm an entrepreneur. So to me, it's not so much a mistake. It's just like, oh, okay, better not let that happen again. And it's still going to happen.
Learned, right?
There really are, honestly, there's just no mistakes. In the podcasting industry, we have a lot of grace because we're dealing with technology. We're all doing this from our home and using tools and online. And so even when I've onboarded a guest who I thought was going to be terrific and they're not, coming up with the right
You're not
link.
looking at me there, are you?
No, God, no. Janine, are you kidding? Come on, you were amazing. Oh my gosh. Lots of note taking. We were all jamming on your interview. The thing is that you have to be able to say, okay, didn't see that coming, and then use the right language, impeccable words to say that you will not be using their recording for an episode. That's really hard to do. Yeah. But sometimes we make that mistake. And as a guest, sometimes we get on a show and we're, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Same thing. Paul, it's just, podcasting is so forgiving that there really are no mistakes. Every podcaster has the, oh my God, we just had that great conversation and I didn't hit record. Or the dog ate my homework, the internet ate my recording, things that can happen. They hurt, but they're not a mistake. Or sometimes I would say the only mistake would be maybe how one treats another person in the conversation and wishes they had been kinder or more compassionate. But again, you listen to plenty of podcasts where that tension is what makes it fascinating. So,
Joe Rogan, for example. No comment. Let me ask you this, Andy. I know some of the people on this call have their own businesses or are thinking of starting them. And I can look at some of the names and say they would be great podcast guests. What, in your view, makes someone a great guest, and how should they pitch themselves to someone like you?
oh, that's such a good question. When you're pitching a podcast host, remember that what's in it for their audience and what's in it for the podcast host. And you can suggest some titles that the podcast host you can talk about. Come prepared to manage up on the conversation, because you as the guest too need to be able to get your point across. So you want to have clear, concise answers to questions that may be asked. And I always provide a framework of questions, I call them, that we'll be using, but we'll be pulling on threads throughout the conversation as well. And then provide examples of you being interviewed, because I get pitches from folks who really their knowledge, their source, their everything is just so friggin' phenomenal, but they are just dead in their presentation.
And I just add is a takeaway here. Okay.
You just be like talking to a rock. We can't have that in the audio and visual world. You have to be able to bring conversation and really be able to add value. And when you pitch, this is how I can help your audience, your listeners. This is something we talk a lot about at the New England Podcasters.
I want to switch for a bit to the whole topic of intergenerational. So intergenerational connection is one of the main things I talk about typically in the workforce. How do we make intergenerational teams work? And we also know that it is one of the primary successful evidence-based ways to end ageism. I think something many people may not know about you is that you host a monthly intergenerational podcast meetup. And can you share an example maybe of a moment that showed you how this intergenerational connection can really break down ageist stereotypes?
Well, first of all, let me tell you all why I launched it, okay? We all know that social connection is the key to longevity, right? It's not what you eat, exercise, all of that. It's being connected to other humans. And so at the beginning of 2024, I wanted more connection with folks. And of course, I got on Meetup, I got on Eventbrite to see what was going on. I wasn't really turned on by what was going on. And I thought, well, who lights me up the most? Podcasters do. And so I said, well, why don't I start a monthly podcasting group? I didn't want to make it just for Massachusetts or Boston. I wanted it to have reach. So I said New England Podcasters. And I bring this up because sometimes you can't find what you want to be part of out there. It's okay to launch it. I am not the oldest person in the room, but things came together nicely. I had a quick Zoom chat with about 10 or 13 folks with the idea, what do you all think? And someone said, I've got the perfect place to have it. Cable access TV stations, folks. Let me tell you, they have to find other ways to make money. So we found one to host us. Within a couple of months, I had a food sponsor from someone in my industry, in the podcasting industry. I kept thinking, you hold a party and maybe one person shows up, that's it. So to sort of shore up that, I made sure I had someone to share some knowledge. I had a few people who said, yes, I will definitely be there. So I knew there would be 4 people there. But really, from day one, there's been 13, 15, 25 people coming every month. And this is also so important. You set it up on a consistent time of the month. So on the second Saturday of every month. So people know you're there. And they may be a monthly subscriber. They might be a quarterly. They might be a biannual or an annual, whomever. But it has been the most rewarding work I've done. And here's an example. When I went to Podcast Movement this summer, who did I pal around with all day? Amanda Russo, 40 years younger than me, 29 years old. Oh my gosh, we laughed and howled. She laughed at all my jokes, which is so wonderful. But we had such a good time. And then another gal who I've become dear friends with, Emily, she's 30. She's, yeah, 39. That's 30 years younger than me. Oh, we can't get enough of each other. I wouldn't have these intergenerational relationships that are so meaningful if I hadn't launched this
Right.
or participated. And what I'm really excited about is somebody found me on LinkedIn. We have an event happening in Boston on the 15th called Future of Aging Summit. And they asked me to be on the Ageism in Media panel. And it's going to be a room filled with students, grad, law school students, et cetera. I couldn't be happier to be around the different ages. But also at New England Podcasters Group, we've got folks who are in their 70s. I don't think we had an 82-year-old who came in because he wanted to write a book and have a podcast.
Ande, I think what you're highlighting, though, is the importance when you're looking for intergenerational connection of common interest.
Thank you.
Very often I'm asked when I'm speaking to groups, how can we bring generations together in our community? And I'm like, well, what are you bringing them together for? The idea of we're just going to put older people and younger people in the same room and something magical is going to happen. You have successfully done it because you've got the shared interest. People want
18 months in a row, Janine, we've met. We also, I built using circle.so, I built an online platform so that I could say rooted in New England, but open to all.
Oh,
We've
nice.
got anywhere from 5 to 10 or more people tuning in via Zoom to our in-person event.
Yeah.
And so there's just, you're right, though, it's around a commonality. So if it's putting together flower arrangements or jigsaw puzzles, if you have that common love, get that intergenerational, and then people get more comfortable in understanding how older people are.
Well, and I have hosted tons of intergenerational conversations, specifically about ageism, how we, both younger and older people, face ageism, but also about political issues and campaigns that I care about. And
Yes.
when you're together trying to get the same candidate elected or getting the same issue on a ballot, that sort of age thing just disappears where we have a common goal. I want to make sure that everybody here, if you've got a question for Ande that we haven't talked about yet, please go ahead and put it in the chat right now while I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Not surprisingly, people did include a couple of questions about ageism. And you started off by talking about gendered ageism. Somebody asked, how does age discrimination impact differently with gender? Is this the second hurdle women face in the workplace? It feels like it sometimes.
How about medical? My husband goes for his yearly checkup. He gets all the tests. He's 74. All the things happen, all the check. I get a pat on the back. And so I had to confront my MD and just say, what's up with that? I don't understand. So we get hit with gendered ageism. As I said, explain it like it's your grandma. One of the things we all saw when Blue Sky came out and they had that whole promo with walking the grandma back.
I wrote about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did. It was just awful. And then of course you got the Crohn's AI. And I actually got banned from one of the subreddits because I was asking people, how can we have conversations around taking responsibility for the narrative around aging so AI is trained to have it be joyful and enlivening and something to look forward to instead of the old witches with the warts on their nose or the frail woman with the walker. But I used the word AI and they banned me.
Oh, no.
That's okay. Not the first time I've been banned from places.
I personally view it as a badge of honor.
Yes.
I know you've interviewed a lot of people starting new things. If you look back and think of 2 or 3 that you think these are kind of role models, again, keeping in mind November inspirational role model months, who would they be? Who would they be?
Oh my gosh.
Let's give people some inspiration.
Well, inspiration is also understanding the body, right? We're not aging the same way. And I had a woman on the show who lost her sight. She was at the top of her game in her industry, traveling everywhere, and boom, sight started slow, boom, became blind. And what I found inspirational was how she turned that, once she got acceptance over it, of course, turned it into an opportunity to help other people overcome obstacles in their lives, to the point where she will do video. She has those Meta Ray-Ban glasses
Ah,
that do video. So she can stand, she knows she's standing in front of a mirror. She can't see it,
yeah.
but she talks that way so that you can see her
Oh, wow.
and shares wisdom. To me, that's super inspirational because we're up against a lot of limitations, whether they're our own or societies or institutional biases. But wow, when you can overcome that,
Right.
and oh my gosh, there's so many inspirational ones. There's a woman who is in her 70s and saw everybody struggling with the smartphone. And she had no problems with the smartphone. And she started teaching everybody on how to use the smartphone. And I thought there was another simple example of someone who found a problem. She's getting paid to do it. She's written a book, all the things. And I think that she didn't know that from nothing, right? She started off teaching it at a few of the local communities for older folks. And then it just started to snowball out there. Folks, I spoke to a woman who was a CPA for decades. Her first love, however, had been acting. When she went to college, it was acting, but she had to get, quote, a job, how we all were told, right? Was a CPA for 40 years. When she retired, she became a voice actor. She took the classes, she got the coaching, and she gets hired a lot
How fun is
today.
that?
Episode 76 was with Linda Ugolo, who was always afraid to speak. And at the age of 60, she went through a wonderful process that helped her understand the root of that. And now at the age of 70, and for the last 8 years, she's been helping people step into the spotlight,
I love that. I love
even after 65.
it. So
So
that goes back to your quote, age center stage, right?
yeah. And I just want to encourage everybody to go to my YouTube channel and go to my playlist of YouTube shorts. I went from only having 200 subscribers and maybe 500,000 views after 10 years on YouTube. And in 18 months, I now have 44,000 subscribers and what, 20 some million views because I repurpose inspirational content of people who are over 65 doing remarkable things to help flip the narrative. And I mean, whether it's a sweet story about this woman, Annie, who bought her VW Bug in 1966 or something and rode it, has driven it every day for decades. And VW came and they totally renovated it. And everybody's crying over that, to listening to Liz Friedman, who's a jeweler in New York. She's in her 80s and she's talking about going hard when you're 60s, 70s, and 80s.
But I have a final question for you. We've
Yeah.
got 2 minutes and I want
Okay.
to wrap up in this. I've heard you so often talk about showing up fully, wrinkles, wisdom, and all. How would you encourage others and everybody on this call and anybody who's going to be viewing this recording to embrace aging openly and boldly, especially when we are nervous about being the oldest person?
Absolutely. First of all, you have to stop chasing the former person you were. I mean, the industry wants us to chase that who we were when we were 40 and 30. Stop that. Get into radical self-love and stop judging yourself about this body here and what's pouring out of you as a person through your eyes, through your smile, through your words, however you find human connection. That is your value. And I know this takes time, but especially the hairs are coming out where you don't want them to come out. And it's just hard. Hearing isn't great. Eyesight isn't great. Memory sometimes isn't great. But to have that radical self-love for who you are and the privilege of being here at this age and stage with maybe decades ahead of us, love yourself enough to honor the fact that you're here and you're valuable and you're important and the world still needs you.
I love it. I love it. I think that is a great ending. We are at 1 o'clock. Here's what's going to happen next. Everybody, if you can just put in the chat your thanks to Ande for sharing her wisdom with us. I'll be sending out a follow-up email, and we have Ande's information in the chat. Do subscribe. I suspect most of you are already subscribed to my mailing list so that you can get follow-up mailings. And do look out. We're going to have a very special program in December. I can't mention it yet, but it will have a holiday theme and you won't want to miss it. And you don't have to show up as an elf on the shelf. Okay, everybody, Thanks so much. Andy, thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate you so much and what you're doing to change the
Janine,
narrative.
Janine, thank you
Take
so
care.
much for inviting me for this wonderful conversation. And to everyone here, you glow. Seriously.
Take care. Bye, everyone.